bright start to the day on Monday morning. Any mist and fog that we do see should clear relatively quickly. And that sets us up through much of the day on Monday. That north-south split continues across the country. The south holding on to the best of any sunshine, perhaps some quite prolonged sunshine here, but the north always holding on to that little bit more cloud. Outbreaks of persistent rain feeding in across western parts of Scotland. Temperatures will be up on Monday compared to Sunday, well above average for the time of year, particularly across the south and the east, 20, 21 degrees, and even eastern parts of Scotland could see temperatures into the low 20s. But that north-south split continues as we go throughout Monday evening. The north always holding on to the worst of any conditions in terms of rainfall, and that continues as we go into Tuesday too, but turning a little drier and more settled for most of us by the end of the week, and temperatures staying around average for the time of year.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, it's 1 o'clock on Sunday the 5th of October and this is the weekend on GB News, an absolutely packed show for you.
We said that immigration during that period was too high, too much pressure on public services, and as much as we tried, we did not stop the boats.
Kemi Badenoch is promising the biggest deportation drive in UK history. 150,000 illegal immigrants every year using Trump-style border squads. She's expected to double down on the pledge during her party conference speech later today, which we will be covering.
Yes, the leader of the opposition has finally got some policies, but has she been quiet about those policies for too long for people to notice? We'll interrogate the detail here in just a moment.
Meanwhile, police forces will be granted new powers to put conditions on repeat protests. Home Secretary is ordering a fresh look at how protests are policed and organised. But has anything actually changed? I'll be joined by a former Scotland Yard detective inspector. And this obviously follows yesterday's scenes as 500 people have now been arrested at pro-Palestine rally in central London after defying calls to cancel protests, obviously in the wake of the horrors of the Manchester attack. I have literally no idea what I've just watched. Any case, evidently it's Thomas Skinner, and he has left Strictly fans traumatised with his latest performance as the TV personality took to the dance floor. What do you make of his moves, though? I'm Dawn Neeson, and this is indeed The Weekend. So it's going to be a brilliant, busy 2 hours for you. We are obviously at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester, where we will be going to cover Kemi Badenoch's speech live during the show. And we are also delving down, we spent a lot of time talking about it yesterday, I know, delving down into what actually went on at that protest yesterday. And some of the comments from some of the people we interviewed and other journalists interviewed, you will not believe. You really don't want to miss it. I'll be talking to Doogie Beattie, who was there for us, live later on in the show. But as always, this show is nothing without you and your views, so let me know your thoughts on all the stories that we're discussing today. Even Strictly Come Dancing, I mean, millions of people watched it last night. I have no idea what Thomas Skinner was doing, by the way, and I'm certainly not going to do it during the show. Well, I might, in any case. But join in the conversation. It's gbnews.com/your say, and I'll read as many out as I possibly can. But as always, I'm in the studio today with the lovely Bethany Elsey, and she's got your headlines for you.
Dawn, thank you. A very good afternoon. Here's your top stories. Israel's Prime Minister says he hopes to announce the release of all remaining hostages in Gaza within the coming days. Benjamin Netanyahu says it's the military and diplomatic pressure of Israel and the US which has forced Hamas to agree to some of the points within Donald Trump's peace plan. However, sticking points over the group's disarmament remain. Israel is sending negotiators to Egypt for indirect talks with the group tomorrow. They'll be joined by senior US envoys and Arab mediators. Police are to be given greater powers to restrict repeat protests. It comes just a day after almost 500 people were arrested at a pro-Palestine demonstration in central London. The majority were detained on suspicion of supporting the banned group Palestine Action. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, says the frequent large-scale protests have caused considerable fear to the Jewish community. The plans could include ordering repeat protests to be held at different locations rather than the same sites for weeks on end. The Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is pledging to deport 150 illegal migrants a year if her party wins the next election. The Tories say they plan to create a removals force modelled on the US Immigration and Customs Agency, and it'll be funded by closing asylum hotels. Speaking at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester, Badenoch said leaving the European Court on Human Rights will allow the Borders Plan to go ahead.
The truth is we are spending billions now on asylum hotels and all sorts of things to look after those people who should not be here in the first place. So part of the Borders Plan, which I'll be talking about more today, is we're deporting all foreign criminals, whether or not they had a right to stay here, deporting all foreign criminals. If you arrive illegally, you will be deported within a week, and we need to remove 150,000 a year to make sure we save our country.
Russia has fired more than 50 missiles and 500 drones into Ukraine overnight. President Volodymyr Zelensky says 5 people were killed in the attacks and at least 10 people have been injured. Several regions were targeted, including the western city of Lviv and the port city of Odessa. Two people who were arrested in relation to the terrorist attack on a synagogue earlier this week have been released and will face no further action. Counter-terrorism police have been granted extra time to question 4 others, 2 men in their 30s and 2 women aged 46 and 61, who were detained on suspicion of preparing terrorist attacks. 3 men are still in hospital with serious injuries after the attack in which 2 people were killed. Police are treating a suspected arson attack at a mosque in East Sussex as a hate crime. It's reported the fire brigade put out a large blaze in front of the mosque in Peacehaven. Pictures circulating show a burnt-out car parked outside the entrance to the building. Police say no one was harmed. Several local authorities, including the Labour MP for the area, Chris Ward, have condemned the incident as deeply distressing and an act of disgusting violence. And Prince William says he's deeply proud of what the Earthshot Prize has already achieved and is excited about the future. The Prince of Wales founded the project in 2020 to recognise and scale up ideas that would help repair the planet. It came following clear scientific evidence that significant changes had to be made to help the environment within the next decade. The winners of the 5th awards in Brazil will be announced next week. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
I'm not going to do that. Thank you very much, Beth. And now we're already getting teased about the Strictly Come Dancing segment that's got coming up later. They've got sequins for me, evidently. No, I'm not doing it. Not doing it. Definitely not doing it. OK, now, thank you for your company. You're the most important ones here. Whether you're wearing sequins or not, I don't mind. It's a Sunday afternoon. Now, let's get straight into today's topics. Obviously, the big story today is the Conservative Party conference that's happening in Manchester. Kemi Badenoch is pledging to deport 150,000 illegal migrants a year in a new sort of Trump-style immigration deal with the squad. You know, the ICE squads that they've been using? Will that go down well here? Let's have a look.
Once we've got the removals force in place, we should be able to get about 150,000 people a year. We're deporting all foreign criminals, whether or not they had a right to stay here, deporting all foreign criminals. If you arrive illegally, you will be deported within a week, and we need to remove 150,000 a year.
Yes, there's lots of figures. They always mention figures, don't they, politicians? The Conservative Party leader is using this year's conference to announce plans to reform Britain's migration system. But we have to leave the ECHR first. OK, we've heard it before, I'm getting the feeling, or have we? Well, let's go to GB News Deputy Political Editor Tom Harwood. I can't escape the boy, to be honest with you, who's live in Manchester for us. Tom, good to see you. I mean it as well.
Yeah, good to see you, and sorry I'm not coming to you sort of covered in sequins. Perhaps I'll try and do that later in the week. It's not quite Andrea Jenkins level yet here at the Conservative Party conference, but what they're talking about this week is delivery, because ultimately we've had a bit of a policy vacuum over the course of the last 12 months, a vacuum into which the Reform Party has stepped. There are some critics of Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Tories, that she's been too quiet with all of these policy reviews, very in-depth reviews that the Conservative Party has been undertaking over the course of the last 12 months. The criticism has been, you don't have any policy. Their answer to that is they've been working quietly and diligently behind the scenes. But of course, in doing that, they've led a bit of a vacuum. Perhaps we'll get on to some of this new policy and some of the work behind it in a moment. I have to say, there's a 200-page legal report I've got in front of me. Can't even pick up all 200 pages of it. It's enormous about the consequences and legality and complication of leaving the ECHR. That's been carried out by a leading KC, Lord Wolfson, who says that actually it is perfectly possible to do, although there are some difficulties in some places. But the big set-piece announcement from Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader today, is it's not just Conservative policy now to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. She also says, telling Camilla Tominey in this conference earlier today, that only people who support this policy will be able to be Tory candidates at the next election.
Well, I was very clear at the Shadow Cabinet, where we agreed completely, it was unanimous, that we cannot have a party where people do not abide by manifesto commitments. If you do not agree with leaving the ECHR, then you should not and cannot stand as a Conservative candidate at the election.
So are you saying you will kick people out if they rebel against this policy?
They can be in the party, but they cannot stand as MPs. You know,
but
we
they
have
cannot
lots of
stand
members.
at the next general election?
No. We have lots of members who have lots of views. We don't remove people for having slightly different views on policy. But if you want to be a member of Parliament as a Conservative, then you need to understand that leaving the ECHR is a manifesto commitment.
There it is, as clear as night and day. The Conservative Party is now in favour of leaving the ECHR, and you can't be a Tory MP if you disagree.
Tom, I am slightly, you won't be surprised to hear that I am slightly confused by this, because this is the same Kemi Badenoch. I mean, yeah, strong words, absolutely, and she's obviously, you know, that's not a fag packet by any stretch of the imagination you've got in your hands there. But during the leadership battle with Robert Jenrick, as we all remember from last year, Kemi Badenoch said that leaving the ECHR was not a silver bullet. So what's changed her mind? Could it possibly be reform?
I think that is a wise point to pick up on. It does seem like the hardline position that the Conservatives are taking has been informed by the Reform Party's rise over the course of the last 12 months. But if Kemi Badenoch was sitting in this chair right here and right now, what she would say is she's always said it could be part of the solution. And the Borders plan, the 7-point Borders plan, which you know is a 7-point plan because there are 7 letters in the word borders. I won't bore you with every single step of this plan. But only 1/3 of one of those 7 steps is about leaving the ECHR. That's leaving the ECHR, leaving the European Convention on Trafficking, and repealing the Human Rights Act. That's all in the out section, the second step of the 7-point plan. It's an incredible level of detail for an opposition to have gone into. But I think what Kemi Badenoch would say is that she wanted to do the work to see if people can be removed within the ECHR. This legal work here has determined that leaving is necessary to remove illegal migrants, but crucially necessary but not sufficient. There's a lot more to the broader plan, including those ICE-style squads, including sanctions or migration sanctions against countries that don't accept returned migrants to those countries. There's a hell of a lot of detail that has been gone through, and perhaps that's why the Conservative Party has been a little bit quiet when it comes to policy over the last year. Well, they have been quietly working through this stuff, and now there is a heck of a lot of detail to get through.
It sounds like it's a tortoise and the hare approach, isn't it? I mean, sort of like, well, you could compare Nigel Farage to the hare zooming off with his fag packet. Kemi has been the tortoise sitting there plodding along with her 200 pages. So hopefully it works. I just have to ask you about the atmosphere there, Tom. I mean, the latest polling isn't good, is it? The Conservatives are only on 16.8% at the moment. That's down on, obviously, last year. Meanwhile, Reform are up on 31.5%. Are people sort of feeling quite bullish about the future, or are they a bit like, well, just fingers crossed?
Well, Dawn, I've been here since 7:30 this morning, but the conference only really opened about an hour ago. And I have to say that from what I've gathered since these party members, delegates have been able to sort of come in and walk around, it has felt thinner than previous years. According to numbers that I've seen, there are maybe 1,000 fewer party members here this year compared to even last year, when, of course, the Conservative Party had already lost the 2024 election at the time of the last conference, let's not forget. And I have to say, at midday, when the normal party members are all allowed in, when it's not just us in the media swanning around, that actually the queues were not as big as previous years. The atmosphere slightly more solemn, but I have to say we're only an hour in. Perhaps while I've been talking to you, Dawn, everything's filled up and everyone's as jolly as can be. What I'll do is report back.
Excellent, and I hope you do it in sequence, because that will really cheer everybody up as well. Tom? Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I'll try and source some sequins. No promises, though.
Thanks very much. That's the wonderful Deputy Political Editor Tom Harwood live in Manchester for us, reporting on the Conservative Party conference, which will be very interesting. We say it is only early, it has only just kicked off. Very interesting to gauge the temperature of how people are feeling there. Said the latest polls aren't good whatsoever. Kemi will be speaking, I think, round about 2:30 this afternoon, and we will be there to cover it live. So we shall hear what she has to say. And of course, Tom and I think Christopher Hope will be there covering it as well. OK, now let's get some more on Kemi Badenoch's immigration plan with migration expert Mike Jones. Mike, good to see you. Now, Mike, there are 200 pages of it, but basically it's basically deporting a lot of people, leaving the ECHR. I've summed it down sort of slightly for us. Now, you're obviously across the detail of this. Is it going to work?
I think leaving the ECHR is very sensible. You know, it de-democratizes the asylum process, it short-circuits our ability to deport people. I think that's a good decision. Kemi Badenoch wants to disapply the Human Rights Act. She doesn't want to get rid of it completely. Obviously, Reform UK's plan is a lot more robust in that sense. You know, Reform want to get rid of the Human Rights Act full stop. That'll benefit security services, the military, special forces, and so on. I think it's a step in the right direction for the Conservatives. They've become more ambitious on deportations, and obviously they want an immigration enforcement agency based on ICE in the United States, you know, more centralized, more sort of detached from the state itself, with more sort of operational independence. So that's a good thing, but I would describe it as a sort of watered down version of the Reform UK plan.
It does actually sound like it has been thought out, certainly a lot more than the Reform plan. Now, how much? Everything comes at a cost, as we know, Mike. Now, we are spending an awful lot of money on hotels at the moment for migrants. I'm assuming, but the devil's always in the detail of these things, but I'm assuming the funding for this, which sounds like it's going to cost a fair few bob, is going to come from the savings we make from that.
Sure, yeah, I mean, that makes sense, but there are initial capital costs. You know, Kemi Badenoch wants to deport, you know, sort of 600,000 odd over a parliamentary term. Yeah, savings will be made over the long term, but obviously there's a sort of capital outlay there in terms of, you know, creating new detention centres and so on and so forth. And, you know, I'd be very interested to see more detail on that. You know, we need to reopen detention centres that were closed down under the Conservatives after Theresa May's various reviews. We need sort of Nightingale-style detention centres. And Kemi Badenoch also needs to talk about sort of refugee convention-aligned laws. I mean, you know, disapplying the Human Rights Act is great, but there are sort of mechanisms there that the judges could potentially use to stop these deportations, and obviously that would put a spanner in the works in terms of the Tory plan.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bridges to cross, as it were. Talking of the Refugee Convention for a start, I mean, from what I can work out from some of the 200 pages I have managed to read so far, the claims that were sort of like going to be put forward under the convention are going to be judged more by the government and not the courts. I mean, that sounds slightly worrying to me.
I think in terms of discretionary leave to remain, I think that responsibility should be with the Home Office. I don't think there's anything unreasonable with that. I mean, the problem is the courts have been colonized by political activists, and they have too much independence. We have a common law system, and basically they use these vaguely worded humanitarian laws to short-circuit the democratic system. You know, it allows them to pursue activism within their profession. So I think, you know, sort of rebalancing the system and having more power concentrated in Westminster itself is a really good thing.
OK, and Mike, finally and quickly, the big question is, will it stop the boats?
It's a step in the right direction. It'll create a disincentive effect, but, you know, the Conservative Party is massively divided. The One Nation faction of the party is still very powerful. They want to disapply the Human Rights Act, not abolish it. But what about the other sort of refugee convention-type laws in British legislation. I think we need to wait for more clarification from Kemi Badenoch.
Well, hopefully we'll hear more this afternoon. That's Mike Jones there, migration expert. Thank you very much for talking to us, Mike. OK, well, OK, there's still plenty of time, evidently. I'm not quite sure when this one ends, actually. I think it's going quite well. To win, yes, it's that motorhome. You knew that was coming, didn't you? It is our biggest Great British giveaway today, and it's your chance to win, £30,000 in tax-free cash, and indeed that 4-berth motorhome to escape wherever you want to go. Here's all the details you need.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. Police forces will be granted new powers to put conditions on repeat protests. The Home Secretary is ordering a fresh look at how protests are policed and organised. And police have been given extra time to question 4 people arrested over the Manchester synagogue terror attack. We'll be live in Manchester with all the latest details on that for you. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't go too far. We'll see you soon.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. A huge packed show coming up for you, including live coverage of the Conservative Party conference with Kemi Badenoch speaking later on about the new immigration plan she has. And I have to say, you're getting in touch in your droves and you're not impressed, are you? Bobby Dazzler, hi Bobby, says, I wonder where the Tories got these policies from with that emoji that does that. Comedy gold from the fouled Tories again, that's not a vote of confidence, is it? And Paula says, so let's get this straight. Labour tried an obsessive smear campaign to discredit Nigel Farage, and now we have the Tories nicking reform policies. If I hadn't made up my mind, which I already had, I would have chosen reform. Ouch. There's not many complimentary things coming in about the Conservatives here. OK, and Richard says it will be interesting to see who and how many of the party faithful in attendance at the Tory conference. The Tories are a busted flush. Where do they stand? On what do they stand for today? Yesterday's political giants are paling into the background. And oh dear, and Peter again says, why would I trust a Conservative or, for that matter, a Labour Lib Dem manifesto? History has taught us they all speak with forked tongues. Not a lot of compliments coming in for the Conservative Party there, and if actually you look at the latest polling, they are not doing well at all. In fact, they would only, I think, if the polls predicted the next election accurately, and it was happening next week, they would end up with, I think, about 7 seats more than the SNP. OK, right, I think we have now... Keep them coming in, by the way, gbnews.com/your say, but I think we now have some breaking news for you, so let's go straight back up to Manchester for a Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood. Tom, what's happening?
Yes, it did seem like there might be some tricks and, well, political bombshells dropped by the Reform Party during the Conservative Party conference, and it appears we have our first one. Here's Christopher Hope, our political editor, with the news.
Yes, he's Mark Gallagher, so he used to run Pagefield PR company. He also was a big supporter of the Kemi Badenoch campaign, although that is maybe disputed according to your sources now, Tom. But we understand he has defected to Reform UK.
So this was a donor to Kemi Badenoch's leadership campaign last year, now defecting to the Reform Party.
That's right. Now, friends of his say he likes and respects Kemi Badenoch. She's the best for her to be Tory leader. But his friends say he believes the UK needs stronger medicine than the Tories are able to offer. So a significant person here, well respected in Tory circles, a money man. We don't know if he's donated yet to Reform UK, but he has jumped ship to Reform UK. Now, I've just spoken to Nigel Farage, who confirms he does know he wasn't aware of this happening, but he's been friends with Mark Gallagher for a long time, and clearly they do respect each other, and that's why it matters. I'm just looking up my phone here. I've got a source here from Reform UK telling us this. Nigel and Mark have been friends for a long time. We understand that he is very disenchanted with the Conservative Party. Well, he's more than that. He's left the Tories, he's joined Reform.
And this is a bombshell for the Conservative Party. Their conference has only been open for an hour and 28 minutes, and already there is a significant defection. Perhaps not a household name, not a political figure, not a front-facing figure, but someone who donated to Kemi Badenoch and who, to a greater or lesser extent, gave advice to Kemi Badenoch as opposition leader too.
bombshell. I think the Tories would say no one knows who he is. He was a background person. He gave a few thousand quid, maybe. Let's move on. But certainly significant, I think, that a guy who is a significant financial supporter, key part of the Kemi Badenoch team, or certainly a part of that team at the Leisure campaign, he's come across.
Some people might say when we hear about political donations, we tend to hear about big donations, hundreds of thousands of pounds. In some cases, people have donated millions of pounds. This was a £2,000 donation, not the biggest donation in the history of politics.
No, it's not exactly, and I think he's probably more valuable in terms of the PR operation he had. He used to advise, I think, Camelot, the lottery company in the old days. He was formerly, I think, at ITV, so he knows about media. I've known him for about 20 years as well, so he's a
Westminster figure.
Yeah, he's a Westminster figure. He sold his PR company, and he's just doing well for himself. But significant, I think, he's saying we like Kemi, she's doing okay, but the problem is the speed to get this going. This is the ECHR withdrawal document. The speed to get policy going is clearly frustrating some people, and for Mark Gallagher, it looks like it's just not fast enough, and you want a tougher medicine to get this country going.
Really significant news there, Chopper. Thanks indeed for bringing that to us. Back to you, Dawn.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Tom and Christopher. Hope that, as you just heard, Tory donor who funded Kemi's personal campaign to the tune of £2,000 has defected to Reform. And we have to ask the timing of that. It's very mischievous, to say the very least. We will have more on that story as and when we have it. OK, and we will be going back to the Tory party conference, because a lot of you are not complimentary, but do keep those messages coming in. OK, now, we change tack slightly. Counter-terrorism police have been given permission to hold 4 suspects in the Manchester synagogue attack case in custody until Wednesday. This comes as 2 people have since been released with no further action. So let's go and talk to GB News national reporter Will Godley to find out what's happening. Will, bring us up to date, please.
Well, Dawn, good afternoon. I can tell you from here in Manchester, where a commemoration just took place to remember Adrian and Melvin, of course, both killed in that attack here on Thursday. I can tell you I've got an update that was confirmed to me that Melvin Kravitz's funeral took place this morning in Agecroft in Manchester. It was attended by Rabbi Walker. He led that service, and I've been told that details of Adrian Dalby's funeral is due to be released imminently and expected to happen in the next few days. I've also been given an update from a member of the trustees at the Heaton Park Synagogue on the conditions of the 3 people who remain in hospital. I was told that 2 of them are now in a stable state. Thankfully, one of them remains in a critical condition after confronting Jihad al-Shami, the man believed to be the attacker, on Thursday morning. He remains in a critical condition. Well, there was prayers for all 3 of them happening at this event here today, and someone who's speaking on stage was Christian Wakeford, the MP for Bury South. Christian, thanks for joining us on GB News. Why did you want to be here today? You were talking about the fact that Jew hate has exploded. What are your constituents telling you?
Oh, I mean, these aren't just my constituents, they're my friends. Many of my friends pray at that shul and were literally on their way to do so on the day. So as we've seen in all the press over the last few days, shock, but not surprise at what happened on Thursday. And, to have 2 members murdered in a terror incident, a cowardly terrorist incident fueled by Jew hate. We've had a banner at the front of this commemoration today, and that basically said, no more words, we demand action. And that's what all my constituents are saying. And whether it's for marches, anti-Semitism in universities, online, in the NHS, we've had too much. Now is the time to act.
Christian Wakeford, MP, thank you very much for joining us on GB News. Calls there for no more words but action, and that action is calling for those marches we saw yesterday in London and here in Manchester to come to an end, Dawn.
Indeed, understandable so as well. Thank you very much for that, Will. That's GB News national reporter Will Godley in Manchester with the latest on the Obviously, the awful attack and the fact that one of the victims has already had his funeral and thoughts with all of the family and friends. Obviously, it's just a horrible, horrible thing. OK, and we will be going back to Will in Manchester for any breaking news on the arrests and any more details we can bring you. I know lots of you want as much information as possible. We will be there, don't worry, we are here for you. I'm Dawn Neeson, this is GB News, and there is indeed plenty more coming up on today's show. Conservative peer Daniel Hannan has issued a stark warning in his Telegraph column today. Following the terrible events in Manchester we've just been talking about, he says that Britain is no longer a safe country and that despite the UK always prided ourselves on being British and welcoming, many Jewish people now no longer feel welcome. We'll be talking to him live next, but first let's get the latest news headlines with... here's Bethany. It's Bethany still.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. Israel and the US are sending chief negotiators to Egypt for indirect talks with Hamas. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he hopes to announce the release of all remaining hostages in Gaza within the coming days. Police are to be given greater powers to clamp down on large-scale repeat protests. It comes just a day after almost 500 people were arrested at a pro-Palestine demonstration in central London. At least 5 people have been killed in Ukraine after Russia fired more than 50 missiles and 500 drones overnight. And the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is pledging to deport 150,000 illegal migrants every year with a US-style removal force if her party wins the next election. Those are the headlines for now. More at the top of the hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are, online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Amy brought disruption for many of us on Saturday, and those winds will continue to ease as we go through the rest of today. However, there is still a bit of wet weather around. It's associated with these weather fronts just sweeping across the very far north of the country. However, high pressure down towards the south is bringing something a little more settled compared to what we've seen recently. So across parts of the north and northwest, there will be a few showers around, perhaps a little more cloud here too. But across eastern areas and particularly across the southern half of the country, generally staying a little bit drier. Some sunny spells developing through the afternoon and those winds continuing to ease as we go through the day. With those lighter winds, perhaps feeling a little more pleasant than compared to yesterday. Those temperatures maybe a degree or two up, perhaps 16 or 17 degrees is an absolute max in the south. As we then go to Sunday evening, it's quite a cloudy and damp end to the day across much of Scotland, particularly across the west. We'll see some outbreaks of perhaps quite persistent light rain and drizzle, particularly over any high ground. A cloudy end to the day as well across parts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, some showery rain pushing in from the west as well. Similarly across parts of Wales, maybe even southwest England too, perhaps a little bit of cloud around, but generally staying a little drier, some clearer spells developing across the southeast of England. And those clear skies will continue as we go throughout Sunday night and into the early hours of Monday. However, further rain continues to push in from the west, pushing its way eastwards across parts of Scotland. So a damp overnight period here across much of Scotland and into the early hours of Monday morning. But further south, where we do see some clear spells, perhaps the odd patch of mist and fog in places, temperatures rurally dropping down into the mid-single figures, but generally staying milder where we see that cloud and rain further north. So a mild but damp and cloudy start to the day across the northern half of the country. The south holding on to the best of any sunshine through the afternoon. Perhaps 1 or 2 very isolated showers in places, but it's northern areas that will see the brunt of any rainfall through the afternoon. And feeling milder than it did on Sunday, temperatures well above average for the time of year, with highs in the south of 19 or 20 degrees.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Sorry, it's a Sunday lunchtime. I am Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and I have to say thank you very much for your company. It is a Sunday afternoon, so I'm a bit chilled. Any case, this programme is about you. To get those messages coming in at gbnews.com/your say. Now, the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, plans to implement tough restrictions on protests after the pro-Palestine activist ignored calls yesterday to cancel the demonstration in the light of 2 Jewish people being murdered in cold blood in Manchester. Bit insensitive, I thought, personally. I don't know about you. Any case, under these new regulations, police will be able to change the location or cap the number of attendees at protests on marches based on the level of disruption caused by similar past events. But with these new powers, can we expect things to actually change? I'm really glad I've got someone to talk me through this, because it's actually quite complicated. Retired Scotland Yard detective Hamish Brown. Hamish, good to see you. Now, Hamish, I was talking to a friend who's a copper, just an ordinary copper on the front line in the Essex Force today, and he didn't really understand what had changed. Can you explain what's going on here?
Well, I think the first thing we've got to say, Dawn, is the disruption and the impact all these demonstrations have on policing. And the people who really feel it are the people like you and me in the suburbs. We don't see police day to day, and it's because there are hundreds, thousands of police officers elsewhere dealing with the demonstration. Yes, there's sort of civil rights and all that sort of business, but I think people in their own communities also have a right and an expectation to see police patrolling their streets. They shouldn't be elsewhere. And the other thing to mention, I think, is the absolute disruption for the local community where these demonstrations are taking place. The disruption to trades, shops having to close, shops having to put extra security measures in because sometimes there's a little bit of trouble. So it is this disruption which is really effective and very expensive to the community. And I think what they're trying to do, the authorities, the government in this particular case, is saying you can't have this repetition of the same demonstration time after time in the same location. You've got to take it elsewhere. Maybe it's an effort just trying to unstabilize them. The issue, as I see, is going to be the enforcement. Now, 500 people were arrested yesterday, and the police have got a job to do. But isn't it awful when the police want the public confidence? And what confidence is there when they're arresting someone in a wheelchair, for example? So it's a very difficult, invidious position the police find themselves in.
Now, there were laws already in existence that stopped protests if the government and the police force in question wanted to do it, weren't there?
Well, that's right, and what we've seen is the Hamas demonstrations. They are a prescribed organisation, or Palestine Action, should I say, is a prescribed organisation, as is Hamas for that matter. And this was lawfully passed through Parliament, and it is for Parliament to decide. And I hesitate to say mob rule, but they do represent the British people, and that is the law. And it isn't, in my view, for the public, or certain sections of the public, to take it in their own hands and say, well, we've got nothing to do with this and we'll do what we want to do. Therefore, they will face arrest. But think of the courts, think of the Crown Prosecution Service, and again, coming back to the police and the general disruption for members of the public with the expense, cost, inconvenience that causes.
OK, Hamish, thank you very much. That's a little bit clearer for us there. That's retired Scotland Yard Detective Inspector Hamish Brown. Thank you very much, Hamish, for joining us. OK, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News. There's lots more coming up on today's show. We will be hearing from Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch as she unveils the Tories' plans to leave the ECHR. But before that, if you are in search of some holiday sun, and I really don't blame you at this point, the forecast for some of those top European holiday destinations is right here for you.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's been very unsettled across parts of the eastern Mediterranean, and it will stay pretty wet across Greece and parts of the Balkans through the next few days. But Iberia, the Canary Islands and also Madeira having plenty of fine weather through the day on Monday. 1 or 2 showers for eastern Spain, but lots of fine sunny conditions across Italy too. We'll run into those thunderstorms and heavy spells of rain there across Greece, some stronger winds as well. And as we go towards Tuesday in the middle part of the week, that unsettled weather will push in towards Turkey as well, so potentially some flooding here.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Now, I've got an interview that I really hoped I'd never have to do in this country, but I think it's important to talk to the next person, our next guest. Conservative peer Daniel Hannan has issued a stark warning in his Telegraph column today. He claims that the terrible events in Manchester is evidence that Britain is no longer the safe country that we've always prided ourselves on being. The reason? Our lax migration policy has allowed people into Britain who do not share our same level of tolerance for, in particular, the Jewish community. So, I mean, has Britain imported anti-Semitism? Well, Lord Daniel Hannan joins me now and can explain exactly his thoughts on this, which he's written so eloquently about. Daniel, if I may call you Daniel, a very, very strong piece in The Telegraph. I read some of your comments almost in tears, because I just can't believe that we are having this conversation in 2025 about the hideous levels of anti-Semitism that many in the Jewish community, in fact, almost all people I've spoken to, have experienced. Please explain a bit more about what you've written and why you feel this.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Dawn. I have always taken pride in the fact that this country has been safer than almost anywhere else for religious minorities. There is a Philo-Semitic and Zionist tradition in Britain that has very little echo in most of continental Europe. When Jews returned in 1656 under Cromwell, there was, yes, they were subject to some mild disabilities as non-communicant members of the Church of England, but they were in the same category as any other religious dissenter, a Protestant or Catholic religious dissenter, until 1833, when all of those disabilities were removed. I mean, to put that in context, the Spanish Inquisition was still in force at the time, right? So we had this very proud tradition, the country that had sponsored the Zionist movement that created the Israeli state. That has changed, not, I think, because attitudes here have changed, but because a population is now here that feels nothing for that tradition at all. And we have done almost nothing to inculcate those values, to teach people that this is also part of our story, that the anti-Semites down the years in Europe, the authoritarians on the far left and the far right, were almost always anti-British, and for exactly the same reasons, and that this was part of our identity. And I'm very, very sad to see this going. And as you said at the beginning, this is not a conversation that we should be having now. Didn't we all think that this was over and buried, 30 years ago? Well, you would have hoped so. And we've seen some real horrific attacks in Belgium and France in particular. But you say we have imported that. And so obviously what we saw in Manchester was appalling. But do you fear that this is the direction of travel for the UK now? Well, it would be extraordinary not to have that concern, wouldn't it? As you say, even in our nearest neighbours, there is now, I'm afraid, a horrible, grisly tradition of anti-Semitic violence. The guy who was kidnapped in France and then tortured to death, the attack in Marseille on the Jewish school, the attack in Toulouse, the kosher supermarket. Same in Belgium, same in Germany. Up until now, it has never happened here. And I think we could all take pride in that. And you've got to ask, how is it that someone like Jihad al-Shami gets to come to the country? I mean, yes, he came as a child, but what kind of person calls his son Jihad? What's going on in the mind of a father who does that? Well, I think we've now got a pretty good idea, right? Because we've seen how his father responded to the abominations on the 7th of October, glorying in the violence. Now, he's a doctor. He's the pin-up of the pro-immigration people. We need all these skilled doctors. And yet I don't think anyone could realistically claim that he has enriched our country. And I really think we need a different approach to immigration and also to assimilation. That Jihad al-Shami, like the Manchester Arena bomber, was a product of our schools. And we need to really look at why are we not bringing people up after 10 years in our state school system to feel some identity with the rest of us. Daniel, there are many listening to you speaking now and reading your piece in The Telegraph who would say, basically, the things you're saying is very close to being racist. You're stopping people coming in from Syria and Iran and Iraq and places like that. I mean, how would you respond to them? I mean, that has been the fear that has stopped us returning some order and sanity into our immigration system. A vague fear of being accused of racism has prevented us from saying that there is a world of difference between importing a Polish engineer and importing a radical imam. Now, I should stress that we are an individualist country. I don't believe in vendetta. Of course, there are individual Syrians, Iraqis and so on who have made a great contribution here. There will be British Muslim viewers watching this now who are as horrified by what Shami did as the rest of us. And it's important constantly to remember that. But we do have to ask, is it wise to keep importing people who have traditions of vendetta and sectarian violence and tribal violence, even if they are then brought up here. You think of the cases around there in the northwest that we've been looking at, the horrible atrocity at the Manchester Arena, the Southport murders. These, and of course this one, these were perpetrated by people who are products of our schools. But you've got to wonder whether they were really properly assimilated here. That we imported people from places with long traditions of tribal violence and religious wars, and then we appear to have done nothing. Maybe there was nothing we could have done, but I'm not sure we really tried to do anything to acculturate their children and to make sure that their children were brought up feeling a sense of British patriotism.
Daniel, unfortunately, we have run out of time. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time, and please stay safe. Thank you very much. That's Lord Daniel Hannan there. We are coming back after a very short break, after a quick break for the weather, and we're going back to Manchester and the Conservative Party conference. We'll see you soon.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good afternoon. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Amy brought plenty of disruption on Saturday, but the rest of today is turning a little more settled. Those winds continue to ease as we go through the rest of the day. That's all thanks to high pressure developing down towards the south, helping space those isobars apart a little more through Sunday afternoon, though perhaps still a little breezy across the very far north, and still perhaps a little cloudier here too. Outbreaks of rain still feeding in from the west, turning perhaps a little heavier and very persistent at times. Plenty of cloud around to end the day across the northern half of the country, but further south turning a little drier overnight. Plenty of clear spells developing, and under those clear spells perhaps the odd patch of mist and fog in places, maybe temperatures here dropping down into the mid-single figures, so perhaps a little bit of a chillier start to the day here. But further north, where we do hold on to that cloud and rain, it'll be a bit of a mild start to the new working week, and quite a damp start too across northern and western parts of Scotland. Mostly light, persistent rain feeding in from the west, continuing throughout much of Monday morning, but staying a little dry across eastern parts of Scotland. A cloudier start to the day across much of Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, some low cloud, mist and murk over the hills. But for much of southern central parts of England, much of Wales too, it'll be a dry and bright start to the day on Monday morning. Any mist and fog that we do see should clear relatively quickly. And that sets us up through much of the day on Monday. That north-south split continues across the country. The south holding on to the best of any sunshine, perhaps some quite prolonged sunshine here, but the north always holding on to that little bit more cloud. Outbreaks of persistent rain feeding in across western parts of Scotland. Temperatures will be up on Monday compared to Sunday, well above average for the time of year, particularly across the south and the east, 20, 21 degrees, and even eastern parts of Scotland could see temperatures into the low 20s. But that north-south split continues as we go throughout Monday evening. The north always holding on to the worst of any conditions in terms of rainfall, and that continues as we go into Tuesday too, but turning a little drier and more settled for most of us by the end of the week, and temperatures staying around average for the time of year.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon. It's 2 o'clock on Sunday, the 5th of October. This is the weekend on GB News. Packed final hour coming up for you.
We said that immigration during that period was too high, too much pressure on public services, and as much as we tried, we did not stop the boats. We now...
Kemi Badenoch is promising the biggest deportation drive in UK history. 150,000 illegal migrants every single year. Using Trump-style border squads, she's expected to double down on the pledge during her party conference speech, which we'll be covering live here very soon. But is this the tough action Britain needs? And another blow for the Conservative Party donor Mark Gallagher, who helped fund Kemi Badenoch's leadership campaign, has defected to Reform UK.
That's right, Mark Gallagher, who funded that campaign for Kemi Badenoch, leaves and joins Reform UK. And that comes as the leader, Ms Badenoch, says unless you back leaving ECHR, you can't be a candidate at the next election. It's all happening here in Manchester.
Well, what a difference 24 hours makes. We're in Trafalgar Square, where just yesterday pro-Palestinian parades were here. Today we are with the Jewish community, who's remembering those that died on October 7th, 24 months ago. We'll have more throughout the programme.
Police forces will be granted new powers to put conditions on repeat protests. Home Secretary is ordering a fresh look at how protests are policed and organised. But has anything actually changed? We're finding out more on that story for you. And this, of course, follows yesterday's scenes as 500 people have been arrested at a pro-Palestine rally in central London after defying calls to cancel protests in the wake of the Manchester synagogue terror attack. And obviously a bit of showbiz and sequins for you because it's a Sunday afternoon. Thomas Skinner leaves Strictly fans traumatised with his latest performance as the TV personality took to the dance floor. I'm not going to comment on those moves, I've got the rhythm of the plank. In any case, I'm Dawn Neeson and this is The Weekend. So we have a busy hour together, so thank you so much for your company. I know how mad Sunday afternoons can be, but if you can take the time just to sit and enjoy this hour with me, because we've got so many important things to talk about. And if you have to leave, we're on the radio as well, and you can get us on your laptops, on your phones, and there's literally no escape. But why would you want to? It's going to be a cracking hour together. Get in touch, obviously, gbnews.com/yoursave, because this programme is all about you, and we are here to talk to you. All of this coming up after your news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Dawn, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. And we'll start with some breaking news. As you've been hearing, a donor and personal advisor to Conservative Party leader Kemi Badenoch has defected to Reform UK. Mark Gallagher reportedly donated £2,000 to Miss Badenoch last October, just weeks before she was chosen by the party faithful to succeed Rishi Sunak. We'll, of course, bring you the latest here on GB News. Meanwhile, the Conservative leader is pledging to deport 150,000 illegal migrants a year if her party wins the next election. The Tories say they plan to create a removals force modelled on the US Immigration and Customs Agency, and that it'll be funded by closing asylum hotels. Speaking at the Conservative conference in Manchester, Kemi Badenoch said leaving the European Court on Human Rights will allow the Borders plan to go ahead.
The truth is, we are spending billions now on asylum hotels and all sorts of things to look after those people who should not be here in the first place. So part of the Borders plan, which I'll be talking about more today, is we're deporting all foreign criminals, whether or not they had a right to stay here, deporting all foreign criminals. If you arrive illegally, you will be deported within a week, and we need to remove 150,000 a year to make sure we save our country.
People have gathered in Manchester to commemorate those who were killed in Thursday's terror attack on a synagogue. The funeral of one of the men who died, Melvin Kravitz, was held this morning, and details of Adrian Dorby's funeral are to be announced soon. 3 men remain in hospital, one of them in a critical condition, but the other 2 are now stable. 2 people who were arrested on suspicion of preparing terrorist acts have been released, but counter-terrorism police have been granted extra time to question 4 others. Police are to be given greater powers to restrict repeat protests. It comes just a day after almost 500 people were arrested at a pro-Palestine demonstration in central London. The majority were detained on suspicion of supporting the banned group Palestine Action. The Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, says the frequent large-scale protests have caused considerable fear to the Jewish community. Police are treating a suspected arson attack at a mosque in East Sussex as a hate crime. It's reported the fire brigade put out a large blaze in front of the mosque in Peacehaven late last night. Police said no one was harmed. Several local authorities, including the Labour MP for the area, Chris Ward, have condemned the incident as deeply distressing and as a disgusting act of violence. Israel's Prime Minister says he hopes to announce the release of all remaining hostages in Gaza within the coming days. Benjamin Netanyahu says it's the military and diplomatic pressure of Israel and the US which has forced Hamas to agree to some of the points within Donald Trump's peace plan. However, sticking points over the group's disarmament remain. Israel is sending negotiators to Egypt for indirect talks with the group tomorrow. They'll be joined by senior US envoys and Arab mediators. And Prince William says he's deeply proud of what the Earthshot Prize has already achieved in its first 5 years and is excited about the future. The Prince of Wales founded the project to recognise and scale up ideas that would help repair the planet. It came following clear scientific evidence that significant changes had to be made to help the environment within the decade. The winners of the 5th awards in Brazil will be announced next week. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in half an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Thank you very much, Bethany. OK, and hello to you. If you're just joining us, huge show coming up for you. And as always, I want your comments, gbnews.com/your say. Now, the Tory party conference has begun, and we're expecting Kemi Badenoch to give her opening address within the hour. We'll be covering it live for you. This comes as donor Mark Gallagher, who helped fund Kemi Badenoch's leadership campaign only a year ago, remember, has defected to Reform UK. Earlier today, she was speaking to GB News and announced new plans to deport foreign criminals. Have a listen.
Once we've got the removals force in place, we should be able to get about 150,000 people a year. We're deporting all foreign criminals, whether or not they had a right to stay here, deporting all foreign criminals. If you arrive illegally, you will be deported within a week, and we need to remove 150,000 a year.
Yes, the Conservative Party leader is also using this year's conference in Manchester to announce plans to reform Britain's migration, with the plan to leave the ECHR. Joining me now from the conference is GB News political editor Christopher Hope. Mr. Hope, another day, another conference for us. OK, bring us up to date on what's going on.
OK, so two big news lines so far today from the conference. The first one is the planned news from the Tory party. It's based on this document here, Dawn. This is the legal guidance from Lord Wolfson, 180 pages, about why the next government, if it's a Tory government, should leave the European Convention on Human Rights. It says here, page 45, paragraph 92, I think it is, that the way of controlling our borders is leaving the ECHR, allowing a government to deport people who arrive here illegally. It's all part of this other document from this Tory party, this borders document. In here, it talks about an ICE, a removals force deporting 150,000 people a year, those who arrived illegally, deport all new illegal arrivals within a week and all foreign criminals, and that's underwritten by that legal document. So that's what the government's keen to announce, that's what the Tory party's keen to announce. The government will do something differently under Labour, of course. The Tories are keen to announce that. Already we've heard from Kevin Badenoch, the leader. She's told Camilla Tominey that any individual who won't stand up or support that the policy of leaving the ECHR cannot stand for the party at the next general election. Here's what Kevin Badenoch told GB News early this morning.
Well, I was very clear at the Shadow Cabinet, where we agreed completely, it was unanimous, that we cannot have a party where people do not abide by manifesto commitments. If you do not agree with leaving the ECHR, then you should not and cannot stand as a Conservative candidate at the election.
So are you saying you will kick people out if they rebel against this policy?
They can be in the party, but they cannot stand as MPs. You know,
we have lots of members at the next general election.
No. We have lots of members who have lots of views. We don't remove people for having slightly different views on policy. But if you want to be a member of Parliament as a Conservative, then you need to understand that leaving the ECHR is a manifesto commitment.
Let me tell you, not all people who want to stand to be for the party at the election are happy with this. I'll be trying to talk to them later on today at the conference. That's the planned news of the Tory party. The other non-planned news is this news we're breaking this hour. Mark Gallagher, a PR professional who supported Kevin Badenoch with a £2,000 personal donation to her campaign to be leader last year, he has now left the Tories and joined Reform UK. Now, his friends have told me this. Mark likes and respects Kemi, still thinks she's the best as a Tory leader, but he believes, apparently called his friends, the UK needs stronger medicine than the Tories are able to offer. And Reform UK, a source at that party, tells us this. Nigel Farage and Mark Gallagher have been friends for a long time. We understand he's very disenchanted with the Conservative Party. No word yet on whether Mr Gallagher has donated to Reform UK, but certainly he's a key ally of Kevin Badenoch, personally donated to her campaign. Him to go to Reform UK is a blow to the Tory leader, and we're hearing from her within the next hour or so.
Looking forward to it, Christopher. I mean, that must be a blow to Kemi. As you say, he was a personal donor to her for her election to lead a campaign. But also, none of the polls today, looking through the papers today, have any good news for the Conservative Party at all. They put them on just over 16%, which will give them, if there was an election tomorrow, round about the same number of seats as the SNP.
Yeah, the problem they've got is they have, with this engineer as a leader, Kemi Badenoch, she has said, I won't do anything dramatically, I need to get the evidence first and then decide. Well, she has the evidence, and here it is. I say again, this big legal document here is the evidence for the UK to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. So she waited till this was gathered, gave it to her Shadow Cabinet on Friday. They then voted in favour, and they support this idea to leave the European Convention on Human Rights, and they must all stand up for that at the next general election. So she's doing everything is slowly. The problem she's got is that I think she's really a marathon runner in a sprint. I mean, the sprinters are Reform UK. They're charging away with their policy programme, even though the Tories say it's not very well thought out, even though they say that the party backtracks on announcements within weeks of making them. That is setting the weather in Westminster. That's why they're so far behind in the polls. But the hope for the Tories is that voters will see the thinking behind it. Again, this thinking, this big document here, underwriting a party policy. They'll see this and then come back to the Tory party. The question is, will anyone listen after 14 years of failing to deal with the small boats crisis and tackle illegal migration and allowing, of course, hundreds of thousands of people to arrive here legally?
I have to say, Christopher, looking at the messages coming in from viewers and listeners this afternoon, there isn't a lot of love. They do not believe that the Conservative Party are the party certainly to deal with immigration. They won't be able to stop the boats. And they're not entirely sure that Kemi is the right person to lead the party.
And those two issues are up for grabs because first one, it comes down to trust. How do the Tories get people to trust them again when they fought those elections through the last decade saying we'll cut migration, legal migration, to fewer than 100,000 at some point? They went nowhere near that. It was nearly 1 million, wasn't it, in recent years? And why should anyone trust them? Having said that, that is definitely true, and that trust must be earned again by the Tory party. And on the future of Kemi Badenoch, you're right, Dawn, that there's a deadline in about 3 weeks' time, I think the 2nd of November. After that date, some of the party's MPs can put letters of no confidence in her to the leader the night of the 1922 committee, Bob Blackman, and if that figure breaches around 40 MPs, that means there will be a leadership, a vote on whether she should carry on as leader. I think it's 45 MP, about a third of the MPs. If that happens, there's a problem for Kemi Badenoch. So she's nowhere near out of the woods. And of course, she is facing, as is Keir Starmer, next May, which is a huge reckoning for these two leaders. You've got around, well, I think nearly 10,000 council seats up for grabs in England, and you've got the Senate in Wales and the Scottish Assembly in Scotland. Big issues there. How will the Tories do? Will Reform surge even further and back up that poll lead? It's just starting. The next 6 months will be crucial for both Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch.
Be very, very interesting to hear what she has to say. Christopher, thank you very much. That's GB News political editor Christopher Hope live in Manchester for us at the Conservative Party conference. We are expecting Kemi to make her speech around about, I think it's 2:45, so roughly half an hour's time. So many questions coming in from you lot. I wish I could actually talk to her and ask her myself. Let's hope she will address some of them when she gives her speech. OK, now let's get more on what we can expect from the leader of the opposition with a deputy political editor at The Spectator, James Hill. James, good to see you. Always good to chat to you. James, I have to be honest, the polls aren't looking good. The messages coming in from our viewers and our listeners aren't complimentary. Not a lot of love in the room for the Conservative Party. It has to be said. There's a big, big hill for them to climb, isn't there?
Yes, there's a massive hill, and I think that's because of the deficit of trust that was built up over the past 14, 15 years or so. The two ways in which they're trying to demonstrate that they can be trusted with people to vote again, one of which is about competence, hence why you see this mammoth 200-page document today, 6 months in the works. Some of the top lawyers in the Conservative Party will be looking at that. And then the second thing, of course, is to emphasise not just depth, but breadth as well, by talking about a range of different issues, hence why they're talking about economic credibility, and hence the slogan of this whole conference, which is stronger border, stronger economy.
And James, that's all we keep hearing, isn't it? It's like migration, immigration, the stronger borders line. That's all we're hearing from every single party at the moment. And people are quite rightly going, well, you're just copying Reform.
I think that there'll be a lot of that. And actually, you know, I was talking to some people in Reform last night and they were saying, look, the Tories are just copying our offer on borders. I suppose the issue then comes as sort of, if you have the exact same product being put out, who do you trust to deliver it? And right now, obviously, because of the gulf in trust built up over the kind of last few parliaments, that means Reform are well placed to profit. But I think Kemi Badenoch, as Chris Hope was saying there, is hoping that this is going to be a marathon and they can win it in the long term and also compete on different things, so public services, for instance, the NHS, and of course the economy, where I think because Reform UK is quite a new party, they have to take some time to build out those kind of links with business. Although, of course, with that donation defection, they've got off to a good start today.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, James. There are so many other issues that people are worried about. Obviously, the cost of living crisis always gets mentioned. The NHS, how are they going to sort that mess out in particular? Now, I think we're also hearing later on today about the green energy policy that the Conservatives have. I think they're basically going to rip that up, are they? Is that what we're expected to hear?
Well, what we're expecting to hear is a sort of full-on rebuke of the past 14 years, where we have the rejection of the Climate Change Act, which was brought in at the end of the new Labour government of the 2000s, something the Conservatives never properly touched and actually expanded with net zero. Theresa May's net zero announcement in 2019. Kemi Badenoch already earlier this year gave a big speech rejecting some of the assumptions of that and the timescale it imposes on businesses and individuals in their private homes as well. And clearly, I think that she thinks that given the cost of living pressures, one way in which she can say we can save lots of money and sort of roll back some of the pressures on business is actually to look at these environmental obligations. Whether that will actually result in any kind of net bonus remains to be seen. It's provoked a bit of criticism, but I think, Dawn, the key thing is for her to grab attention. Right now, the Conservatives are being shut out of the conversation, and anything that will grab headlines, show they matter, show they've got some fight and original thinking left to them, that's all that today's about, and hence why you've got the ECHR announcement and the climate change rollback too.
Exactly. I mean, James, she certainly has grabbed the front pages today with the immigration announcement. But obviously, waiting in the wings, we have Robert Jenrick, who he's not backwards in coming forwards, is he, when it's getting the headlines and getting that publicity. We know we've got to wait until the beginning of November before they can trigger any kind of vote of no confidence or new leadership battle. Do you think that's a possibility?
Well, look, I think that Robert Jenrick has clearly been one of the most successful in opposition at getting the attention that the party so desperately needs. Of course, that TfL stunt video where he stopped fare dodgers got 15 million views, so created a sort of artificial conversation out of nothing. And I think that really showed how the Conservatives need to fight on terrain that's most favourable to them. Do I think that he'll stand again if there was to be such a vacancy? If the ball came loose from the back of the scrum, I certainly think he would. And I think that actually I think that if you look at the past 12 months or so, I have spoken to some people who supported Kemi as members and one or two as sort of MPs as well, who say, look, Rob's clearly been up for the fight, and I think that he would be well positioned. We're interested to see what Kemi Badenoch takes from his brief in her speech today and on Wednesday as well. Obviously migration and asylum, those are key justice issues. How much of that is she going to lean into, and will we see a bit of a turf battle over the next 3-4 days or so?
Fascinating space to watch. Thank you very much. That's James Hill, a Deputy Political Editor at The Spectator. Thank you very much, James, for joining us. OK, now there is still plenty of time. Another handbrake turn coming up here for you. Still plenty of time, quite literally, in this one, to get your entry into our biggest Great British giveaway today, I think it is. Yeah, definitely. Your chance to win £30,000 in tax-free cash and a brand new Fort Berth motorhome. You know all this by now. Any case, if you want to win it, here's how you do it.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck indeed. OK, I'm Dawn Neeson. This is GB News, and there's loads more coming up on today's show. Yesterday saw nearly 500 people arrested in central London as supporters of the proscribed group Palestine Action. Today, Israelis gather for the October 7 commemorations. Dougie Beattie joins me next, live from that. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you very soon.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too.
From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Liz Mitchell, MBE, gracing us with her presence on the sofa this morning. Liz, so good to have you with us.
I am happy to be here.
You have the most incredible voice, the voice of a generation, the whole disco era. It is down to you. What do you think has made your songs so timeless? I mean, everybody knows them, don't they?
Everybody knows them.
Everybody.
One thing I'm very grateful for is the temper of our music, because it seems to be very friendly, warming, and even our slow songs. I was playing one just the other day for my 2-year-old grandson, and he said, more. I was so happy.
I'm with him on that. There's a real sense with your music, though, that it is uplifting.
Yes.
And you feel happy listening to it. I mean, despite whatever it is you're singing about, almost, it's just there's a joy to it.
Yes, and that is really a gift, I think, that most artists would want to have, is that when they make their music that is lasting and that is bringing happiness to people. Because for me, that's the whole point of singing. You know, you should be able to make the people you're entertaining feel happy, hear something good, forget the pain for a moment and just want to dance and just feel good.
And Boney M music is all over TikTok, isn't it? It's being remixed all the time. How do you feel watching your music being reinvented like that?
It is really wonderful. This has been going on since the 90s, even before the 90s, people were remixing our songs. So it's the uniqueness of the vocals, because that's what is given to them, just the plain vocals, and then they put new music on it, and it still sounds like Boney M.
The People's Channel.
Hello, welcome back to The Weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you so much for your company this afternoon. Now, yesterday we covered it a lot, didn't we? All spoke about it yesterday. Saw nearly 500 people arrested in central London as supporters of the proscribed group Palestine Action ignored pleas to postpone their protests. Our reporter, Doogie Beattie, was there and speaking to some of the demonstrators. Have a listen.
You support what is going on here?
What is going on here? What exactly?
Well, they want the right to protest, and they obviously want to stop what they see as genocide in Israel.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So you support it?
Yeah, but it seems like you're trying to get something out of that. Do you understand what I mean? You've got.
I'm trying to get an answer.
I love that. Doogie did such a good job, honestly. OK, well, Doogie is actually back in central London today and at a very different type of demonstration. Doogie, where are you and what's happening today?
Well, what a difference 24 hours makes. We're back in exactly the same place, but the people here today know exactly why they're here, and they're prepared to stand up and say why they're here. This is the commemoration 24 months on from the 7th of October. The Jewish community have came here to remember. The commemoration started here with a video screen of all those that were captured and killed on that day playing on that screen. And really, it is quite respectful here today, and I'm joined by one of the organisers now, the CEO of the Jewish Leadership Council. How are you, and what does today mean to you?
So
This event was organised many months ago, as we knew the anniversary of the second anniversary was coming up. But today takes on even greater meaning, given the atrocities of the terrorist attack on Yom Kippur earlier this week. We came to commemorate a terrible terrorist atrocity on Jews and others in Israel, but for the very first time we are in the aftermath of a terrorist attack, a deadly terrorist attack on Jews in this country.
And how is the Jewish community feeling? Are they feeling under threat? Do they feel unsure of their position here in Britain?
So I think the community is still reeling, but as you can see from the turnout today, they have not been cowed. People still went to synagogue over the weekend, despite, the atrocities of just a few days before. But for the last 2 years, there has been an increase in tension, an increase in anti-Semitism, and a feeling that for Jewish people, their future in this country is no longer as secure as it might once have been. And the events of Yom Kippur really brought that home. So there is a lot of tension in the community, absolutely.
And do you blame those that take part in these protests that don't understand quite why they're there? I mean, does that really affect your community?
So I think the right to protest is sacrosanct, and we've never called for any protests to be banned, but we have seen the most horrific, vile anti-Semitism on each and every one of these protests, and it's the responsibility of the protesters who claim to just be fighting and supporting the rights of Palestinians, but you should be able to do that without veering into anti-Semitism, without having swastikas, without saying we need to globalize the Intifada. The events of Yom Kippur is what the globalizing the Intifada looks like.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think people have forgotten or are being told that October the 7th, all sorts of things coming out that it didn't happen in the way that it did? Why has that been pushed forward? Has your community been asking those questions?
Look, the very first request for a protest from the Palestine Solidarity Campaign happened on October the 7th, just hours after, during the terrorist attack. So the organizers themselves are not protesting the Israeli response. They are protesting or celebrating, I should say, the Hamas attack against Israelis. So we have to be really clear about what it is they are marching for, and I don't think it is for the freedom and the rights of Palestinians.
Do you think that these parades going ahead yesterday was disrespectful? I know you're on the right to protest, but did you find them disrespectful?
It was absolutely disrespectful. The community, as I said, is just coming to terms with the fact that there's been a bloody terrorist attack on the community. Many think that the incitement that's taken place on those marches and in and around society has contributed to the radicalization of people, possibly including the terrorists who committed that attack. So it did feel grossly insensitive. As I said, free to protest, but choose your timing. And to quote the Home Secretary, it felt very un-British.
Thank you very much for joining us here on GB News. Yes, so there you are, Dawn. This is going on for a couple of hours, and it is very respectful. There is a solemn feeling out over the top of Trafalgar Square today, and there is a high security presence from the Jewish community, but not that much police presence about at the moment.
Okay, Doogie, I just want to talk to you briefly about yesterday when we were working together covering the pro-Palestine demonstration. You were treated appallingly. People called you racist, called you a fascist, told you to go away. You weren't a journalist, you were just stirring trouble up. Did a bit of digging around today. You weren't the only journalist that were accused of all those things. It's almost like there was a script given out to people on that protest to how to respond to journalists. But I just wanted to talk to you briefly about one lady who, when she was asked why she was on that march and asked about Hamas, whether they were a terrorist organisation, she said, "I don't know enough about Hamas. It's up to the Palestinians who they have in their country. I think they're probably freedom fighters, a lot of them." I was astonished by the level of ignorance that people had about the history of what's happened, and certainly so close to October the 7th.
Yes, it was astounding, actually, that they didn't want to sort of link what happened on October the 7th with the Palestinian crisis. They didn't want to link what happened just last week in Manchester with this crisis. And I asked repeatedly of those people there, and if they, as a journalist, I must take all sides of an argument and put the points forward. And if they're not prepared to talk to me, well then how can I do that? But everything we do is live. There is no edited highlights of this. So what you see us doing is live on air. And unfortunately, when we come off air, they decide to spark up a conversation with you. About 10 of them at once, and all standing with their mobile phones trying to catch you out, but they won't go on camera with you. And all they continually say is these same points. And there is an ignorance about the problem itself. If you're going to look at every problem, you must look at all sides of it. You must know your history, and you must know what actually starts things off, and look at a bigger world scale of what is going on. And that has not been done with the Palestine protest yesterday, and that is hard for me to say as a journalist. But being there, and many other journalists faced exactly the same thing, and it is very, very frustrating for us, because what happens is we get called all sorts of names, and fascist and right-wing. That is not the case. If you have a message and you're sure of your message and you can take the questions that are thrown at you, well, please, we will be happy to challenge you in those answers that you give us. And if we're wrong, we're wrong. But that was not the case yesterday. There is a script, and certain members of the community want to stick by that script and not look at what's going on and what caused things in the first place. Unfortunately, through so many things, that actually does happen.
Doogie, thank you very much. Great reporting today, and great reporting, and please pass on my best to everybody gathered in that very solemn occasion in Trafalgar Square today. Thank you very much, Doogie Beattie. Of course, let us know what you think about that. And that just wasn't GBNews, by the way. I had friends there for the BBC and for the Times covering that. They were accused of the same things: racist, you're just here to stir up trouble, from people who didn't even know who Hamas were. OK. I'm Dawn Neeson, this is GBNews. Plenty more coming up on today's show. We will be back in Manchester as Kemi Badenoch prepares to address the Conservative Party conference. Is this make or break? But that's all after the headlines with Bethany.
Good afternoon. The headlines from the GB newsroom. The Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is pledging to deport 150,000 illegal migrants per year with a US-style removal force if her party wins the next election. Police are to be given greater powers to clamp down on large-scale repeat protests. It comes just a day after almost 500 people were arrested at a pro-Palestine demonstration in central London. Israel and the US are sending chief negotiators to Egypt to meet with Hamas and negotiate the release of all remaining hostages in Gaza. You're up to date. More for you in half an hour.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. Storm Amy brought disruption for many of us on Saturday, and those winds will continue to ease as we go through the rest of today. However, there is still a bit of wet weather around. It's associated with these weather fronts just sweeping across the very far north of the country. However, high pressure down towards the south is bringing something a little more settled compared to what we've seen recently. So across parts of the north and northwest, there will be a few showers around, perhaps a little more cloud here too. But across eastern areas, and particularly across the southern half of the country, generally staying a little bit drier. Some sunny spells developing through the afternoon, and those winds continuing to ease as we go through the day. With those lighter winds, perhaps feeling a little more pleasant than compared to yesterday. Those temperatures maybe a degree or two up, perhaps 16 or 17 degrees is an absolute max in the south. As we then go to Sunday evening, it's quite a cloudy and damp end to the day across much of Scotland, particularly across the west. We'll see some outbreaks of perhaps quite persistent light rain and drizzle, particularly over any high ground. A cloudy end to the day as well across parts of Northern Ireland, northern parts of England, some showery rain pushing in from the west as well. Similarly across parts of Wales, maybe even southwest England too, perhaps a little bit of cloud around, but generally staying a little drier, some clearer spells developing across the southeast of England. And those clear skies will continue as we go throughout Sunday night and into the early hours of Monday. However, further rain continues to push in from the west, pushing its way eastwards across parts of Scotland. So a damp overnight period here across much of Scotland and into the early hours of Monday morning. But further south, where we do see some clear spells, perhaps the odd patch of mist and fog in places, temperatures rurally dropping down into the mid-single figures, but generally staying milder where we see that cloud and rain further north. So a mild but damp and cloudy start to the day across the northern half of the country. The south holding on to the best of any sunshine through the afternoon. Perhaps one or two very isolated showers in places, but it's northern areas that will see the brunt of any rainfall through the afternoon. And feeling milder than it did on Sunday, temperatures well above average for the time of year, with highs in the south of 19 or 20 degrees.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Thank you very much, and welcome back to the weekend with me, Dawn Neeson. Now, we are expecting to go live any minute back to Manchester, where we're expecting Kemi Badenoch to start her speech. But before we go there, we've got a nice little story for you. This weekend, thousands of motorcyclists have taken part in the Ride to the Wall. It's an annual pilgrimage to the National Memorial Arboretum and sees veterans from across Europe coming together to remember those who fought alongside. Our national reporter, Jack Carlson, has the story for us.
Pilgrimage to the National Memorial Arboretum to remember those who've given the ultimate sacrifice. This weekend, thousands have ridden to the Armed Forces Memorial here, paying tribute to those they've served alongside. Many of the riders are veterans, serving personnel or family members of the fallen. Riders donate to take part, and with other fundraising, more than £1.8 million has been raised since it began in 2008. For Managing Director at the National Memorial Arboretum, Philippa Rawlinson, it's an honour to take part.
It's a sense of camaraderie, it's remembrance, it's uniting people in remembering, and also importantly for the Arboretum as a charity, raising funds for us. I'm really excited and honoured, because it feels, rather than being here to welcome the Wallers, which it was my privilege to do back in 2019, my first year, being asked to be part of the community is something very, very special and I treasure dearly.
And as Philippa heads off to join the route, others watch on as more bikes arrive. More than 7,000 people and more than 5,500 bikes have made the journey to the Arboretum today, many of them decorated with a national or regimental flag. For people here, it's a chance to reunite with former comrades and think about those who never made it home. Veteran and founder of Ride to the Wall, Martin Dickinson, explains why he wanted to start the event.
I felt it was a way of not modernising Remembrance, but making Remembrance more contemporary. Just pulling up at the gate today. Different years have different feelings, and the feeling I had today pulling up just as we pulled into the NMA, I've never had before. And it was quite an emotional feeling. People ride here from across the UK and from even further afield. For veterans Phil and Dave, it's been a journey all the way from Spain.
It's the times we had together, and people shed tears here, and it's the only place I know where men shed tears is here. All servicemen are part of that huge group, and you never let it go.
The biggest emotion I had was one year I came here, and all the time I've been at the wall, I've seen names, but I went to lay a wreath, and as I walked up, I looked up at the wall, and there was 2 of those names that are my friends that died. Sorry, it's getting to me now, but yeah.
Whilst each of these bikers ride for someone different, they all ride together. Jack Carson, GB News.
Love it, that's what it's about, isn't it? OK, now GB News Deputy Political Editor Tom Harwood joins us live from Manchester, where we're waiting for Kemi Badenoch to make her speech. Tom.
Yes, we are indeed. In the meantime, I've had a little visit from a press officer at the Conservative Party who's handed me a goodie bag. Don't say these conferences aren't full of fun and games, because I'll tell you what, inside the goodie bag is a Reform Party manifesto. And this manifesto is an unusual manifesto. It's shaped like a cigarette packet. It says unfunded promises can seriously harm economic health, open for detailed costings. And inside the fag packet, it's empty, with some lists of policies on the back. A bit of fun there, poking at the Reform Party and the refrain that is often said that Reform perhaps doesn't have all the detail to back its broad brushstroke policy. But it's not just the Reform Party the Tory party is going after in this goodie bag. No, there's also a booklet for Rachel Reeves. It says Rachel Reeves' fabulous life. Now, viewers might remember that Rachel Reeves got into a bit of trouble over her LinkedIn CV a few months ago. Well, inside the This Is Your Life, Fabulous Life Rachel Reeves booklet, you have Rachel Reeves and her exploits in life, discovering fire, assassinating Caesar, building the pyramids, putting the finishing touches to the Great Wall of China, at the Battle of Hastings there, forcing King John to sign the Magna Carta, and it goes on and on and on, ending the Cold War, launching the first iPhone, and there at the end, receiving an Academy Award, possibly for her performance in Increasing National Insurance is Not a Tax on Working People. Goodness me, lots of fun and games going on here at the expense of the other parties, but yes, we are expecting Kemi Badenoch to take to the stage in just a couple of minutes' time.
Brilliant, Tom. We will come back to you very shortly for that one. OK, we are going to take a quick break, and then we'll be going straight back to Tom, where Kemi Badenoch will be making her speech.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
It's been very unsettled across parts of the eastern Mediterranean, and it will stay pretty wet across Greece and parts of the Balkans through the next few days. But Iberia, the Canary Islands and also Madeira having plenty of fine weather through the day on Monday. 1 or 2 showers for eastern Spain, but lots of fine sunny conditions across Italy too. We'll run into those thunderstorms and heavy spells of rain there across Greece, some stronger winds as well. And as we go towards Tuesday in the middle part of the week, that unsettled weather will push in towards Turkey as well, so potentially some flooding here.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's.
News Channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello and welcome back to GB News with me, Dawn Neeson. Thank you very much for your company this afternoon. Now, we are waiting for Kemi Badenoch to start speaking live at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester. So let's go straight back to our Deputy Political Editor, Tom Harwood, who is live on the scene for us. Tom.
Yes, that's right. It's a big moment for Kemi Badenoch because she's really got to do a job in convincing her party, not just that she's the right person to be the next Prime Minister, but frankly, that she's the right person to lead the Conservative Party. We've seen the Conservative Party slide to third place in the polls over the course of the last 12 months, since this party last met in Birmingham for its annual conference last year. At that point, the party was very, very happy because the Labour Party had had a bad start, was sliding in the polls, and at the time, most activists believed that the Conservative Party could be back in power at the next election. Well, in the interceding 12 months, what's happened? The Conservative Party have not gone up in the polls, they've gone down in the polls. And it's been the Reform Party that has stolen a march, sucking up all of that unpopularity that the Labour Party has been sort of spewing out, taking their vote share, jumping into first place, if you will. So really what we have here is Kemi Badenoch having a bit of a moment. This is the first opportunity for her to prove herself as a party leader. She's never spoken on the main stage of the Conservative Party conference before as a party leader, because at the last conference, that was when the leadership election was going on. So really, this is her first opportunity in front of the party faithful, the gathered members, to set out who she is and what she stands for. We've seen a poll out today saying that most voters don't know what she stands for. And perhaps that's because there's been a policy vacuum at the heart of the Conservative Party over the last 12 months. Well, the Tory party want to end that policy vacuum in this conference today. They've been doing a lot of detailed work over policy, and today they've got one out on borders, on migration, a policy to try to stop illegal migration. It involves leaving the ECHR, but it is not limited to leaving the ECHR. It's also about a sort of deportation squad in the model of ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Team in the United States. It's also about signing deals with other countries to return their people and banning visas from those countries if they refuse those returns agreements. There's a huge list under those 7 points in the Borders Plan, and no doubt Kemi Badenoch will be trying to promote some of those in her speech in some moments' time. But she does have a job on her hands, because there are people in this conference, there are people in this party who think she's not the right woman for the job.
Oh, I was just going to say, I was listening to Kevin Hollinrake, the Tory chairman, speaking earlier at the conference, and he said that Margaret Thatcher would be proud of the party today. He didn't specifically say she'd be proud of Kemi Badenoch, but Kemi Badenoch is another strong female leader, and we are coming up to the 100th anniversary of Margaret Thatcher's birth. Do you think Kemi Badenoch sees herself as a Margaret Thatcher figure?
That's a really interesting question. Of course, it's a week tomorrow, on the 13th of October, when Margaret Thatcher would have turned 100 years old. There's a lot of Margaret Thatcher memorabilia here at the Conservative Party conference. There are 3 of her most iconic suits, actually in a stand just behind me. You can't quite make it out here, but the speech where she made that famous "no, no, no" at the dispatch box, the dress she wore for that speech, that's there. The dress she wore when she rode the tank famously, that's there too, as well as another dress that she wore when she resigned as Prime Minister. Some really iconic stuff there. But the memorabilia is everywhere. To some extent, it feels like this is a party that is almost leaning into its past, saying perhaps its best days were in its past. Does Kemi Badenoch think of herself in the mould of Margaret Thatcher? Perhaps. I think it's hard to be a senior woman in the Conservative Party without inviting that comparison. But I think she has answered that question in the past. She answered it during the leadership election last year, where she says she didn't want to be seen in the mould of anyone. She wanted to be her own person. But inevitably, the comparisons are going to be drawn. Margaret Thatcher is a figure who looms large, not just over the Conservative Party, but actually over world politics too. There's just been a new leader appointed of the Liberal Democratic Party in Japan, likely to be Japan's first female Prime Minister. And she's a staunch Conservative who often speaks about Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher comes up in the Republican primaries in the US. Even in Argentina, the new president there talks about Margaret Thatcher in a favourable light. Across the world, she looms so large. I think we're about to see Kemi Badenoch step out onto the... We're not about to see Kemi Badenoch step out onto the stage. Things look like they're running a little bit late here at the Conservative Party conference. But I think the question of Margaret Thatcher is such an interesting one. Has the Conservative Party ever really been able to step out of her shadow? Since she was defenestrated as party leader and Prime Minister in 1990, this has not been a political party at ease with itself, always sort of wondering what would have happened if they'd have kept Margaret Thatcher on. The leadership election in 1997 was won by William Hague, who was endorsed by Margaret Thatcher. The following leadership election in 2001 was won by Ian Duncan Smith with the backing of Margaret Thatcher. It seems like the ghost of Thatcher has been sort of looming so large across the party. In many ways, the splits in the Conservative Party over the European question began with Margaret Thatcher and her later Euroscepticism in her later premiership. This is such a large question, and I think to some extent Tory party leaders need to be able to look to the future, not just to the past. Margaret Thatcher would have been 100 a week tomorrow. She stopped being Prime Minister in 1990. For a lot of voters, that's before they were born in 2025. So this is a big question that the Conservative Party has. Of course, it's the oldest party in the world. It likes to describe itself as the oldest, most successful political party in the world. Starting in 1834 with the Tamworth Manifesto and Robert Peel. But it can't always look back, and perhaps that's one of the traps, one of the dangers that this party faces. If it looks backwards all the time, then perhaps it's not a party that people will see as one for the future.
Reading an interview with Kemi Badenoch, who we are expecting to be on stage very soon, by the way, with a major announcement. We don't know what that is, but when she was being interviewed today, Tom, she did name one strong female political leader who she admired. Do you know who that is?
Oh, you're stretching me there. Who was it?
I like to do that, Tom. OK, in an interview this today with I think it's the Telegraph, she said Giorgia Meloni, the leader of Italy, she said she's a very authentic centre-right leader, and she says we are text buddies. So that's an interesting pointer to the direction Kemi Badenoch would like to go in, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a smart response, because Giorgia Meloni is someone who's been able to have a very hard-line migration policy, and actually illegal migration across the Mediterranean has fallen, just as illegal migration across the English Channel has risen. I'm sure there's a lot that Kemi Badenoch would want to point to with regard to Meloni's successes in the Department of Migration. And of course, today is all about migration at the Conservative Party conference. They've brought out this which is their Borders plan. BORDERS, a slightly tortured mnemonic where the B stands for ban asylum claims for illegal entrance and O is out of the ECHR, ECAT, and repeal the HRA, the Human Rights Act, as well. I won't go through every 7 letter in the word borders, but clearly today is all about borders. Perhaps a smart answer there from Kemi Badenoch, pointing to an authentic leader of the right who has been quite successful in Italy in terms of popularity and in terms of illegal migration. But I think there's a bigger issue here too, which is that Giorgia Meloni is someone who has a personality. If you ever see her at a G7 conference, you'll see her making quirky faces, working with the camera, being friendly with Donald Trump. You know, all of this sort of stuff cuts through. And sometimes politicians, maybe dare I say it, even our Prime Minister, can blend into the background, can appear grey, or as Boris Johnson once described Sir Keir Starmer, a great big boring plastic bollard, which he used as a sort of pejorative in his farewell speech in the House of Commons when he left being Prime Minister in 2022. Perhaps to some extent the genius of Meloni and her success is that she has a personality, is that she appears real and she cuts through to the Italian people. Now, looking at polling that's been done over the last couple of days by More in Common, the research organisation, they asked people in the country at large what they think of Kemi Badenoch. And the word cloud that came out of that highlighted words like useless and boring and don't know. So that was perhaps not a good sign for Kemi Badenoch, that her messages, as far as they have not been cutting through to the British people.
Yeah, but maybe, Tom, it is a time that we had politics now with actual policies rather than just personalities, although it's a really interesting point, because if Nigel Farage were to win the next election, it could represent such a turning point in politics that the Conservatives might never recover. The YouGov polling we're talking about just now, if Nigel Farage wins the election, puts them on just 45 seats, which is the 4th largest party in Parliament, with only 8 MPs more than the SNP. I mean, the way things are going, the Conservative Party could be finished.
You can really feel that on the floor of the Conservative Party conference, Dawn. It feels thin, this party conference. I've had a bit of time to walk around now that the conference is fully open, that delegates can come and go as they please. And it just feels so much... I've been coming to Conservative Party conferences for the last 10 or so years. And this, for me, is the quietest that I've ever seen one. Where normally you expect to see sort of tents and sponsors and events, there are none. And it does feel thin on the ground. I think that's completely fair to say. This is a party that is facing an existential question. If it loses seats at the next election, if it dips down to 4th place, could this really be the end of the Conservative Party? Well, they would say that this is, of course, mid-term, that they've just suffered their worst election defeat in the history of the party, that, of course, it's going to take a long time to build back. Although, looking at the polls, they have been going in the wrong direction for this party for most of the last 12 months. And if this party does really fall to 4th place in the House of Commons, there's huge questions in terms of its viability as a political force altogether. We had this crucial moment at the start of this year, at the start of 2025, when you had crossover in the polls. As soon as Reform took over the Conservative Party in the polls, that was a crucial moment in the minds of pretty much the half of the country that sees itself as centre-right. If it becomes more meaningful, more likely that you'll kick out a Labour MP by voting Reform rather than Conservative, that crossover point becomes that tipping point. It becomes very, very hard. It sort of accelerates the lead. Once there's even an inch of a lead for Reform, and they look like they're the more likely party to be the viable party as a party on the centre-right, that then almost accentuates itself. It has a snowball effect.
Tom, talking of popularity polls here, you'll be glad to know that you're winning one. The viewers are loving your commentary. Rory says Tom needs to be on Mastermind, specialist subject, anything and everything. I would agree with him on that one. But back on the Conservative problem...
Dawn, you can't read that question out. I just got a question of yours wrong. You asked me what did Kemi say in a Telegraph interview, and I completely couldn't remember. So let it be on the record here that I do get things, I do know...
You kind of passed on it. People are applauding now. If you're just joining us, we are no. We are live at the Conservative Party conference in Manchester. It's Tom Harwood live on the ground there, me, Dawn Neeson, in the studio. We are waiting for Kemi Badenoch to come on and give her maiden speech as leader at a conference. And we are promised that she's going to make some big announcement. We don't know what it is yet. We haven't got a clue. But we will bring you the whole speech live. We're just waiting her to come on stage. They are running slightly late, as you can see. I just want to read a couple of your messages out. Florrie has said, we were talking about Margaret Thatcher. It's her 100th birthday next week. The anniversary of her birth, rather. Florrie says, Kemi Badenoch, a Margaret Thatcher figure. I just spilt my tea when you said that. She's not even close. And meanwhile, we're talking about Kemi Badenoch admiring Giorgia Meloni in Italy. And Paul says, ha, ha, ha. So Kemi wants to be far right like Meloni. Bye-bye, Conservative wets. See you in the Lib Dems. Well, I don't know if you would describe Giorgia Meloni as far right. She's certainly to the right, for sure. But we keep coming back to the migration question, Tom, and whether that's going to actually save them, in particular leaving the ECHR. When Kemi was being interviewed about this today, she was asked, well, Russia and Belarus, they're not in the ECHR. What does that say about the Conservative Party? And she shot back quite rightly, well, Canada isn't in it, neither is Australia, neither US or New Zealand. I know they're not in Europe. But she goes, they're not treated as pariahs, so why should we be?
Well, exactly. I mean, it's constantly the back and forth there on that very question. People saying, oh, you'll be like Russia, and then people who want to leave saying, no, we'll be like Australia or Canada or America. I mean, yes, Britain did help set up the ECHR in the wake of the Second World War, mainly by transposing rights that we had in this country to the European countries that were without them. The European Convention of Human Rights, almost uniquely for the United Kingdom, was not a charter that bequeathed us rights. It was a charter that was written largely by Brits to give Europe rights, because they hadn't had a tradition of liberty in the same way that Britain had a tradition, stretching back, not continuously, of course, but since 1215, with the Magna Carta, the right to a trial by jury, going forward through the Civil War and eventually the Glorious Revolution, our own Bill of Rights in 1688, 1689, the sort of Whig supremacy of the 1700s, the growth of Parliament as an institution, the pluralist democracy that then evolved, and the power of the Crown that diminished over time. This is a country that, unlike those European countries, that actually the whole of the Eurasian landmass, in about 1940, the entirety of the Eurasian landmass, from Portugal to Japan, was under either fascism or communism, one form or other of dictatorial control, of totalitarian government. Britain was not. Britain alone stood free. And it was our continuous tradition of liberty that after the Second World War we then gave to the Europeans. There are some people who argue leaving the European Convention of Human Rights would be taking away rights from the United Kingdom. But that fundamentally misunderstands where the rights came from in the first place. The UK was such a large part of creating the ECHR.
Tom,
I believe Kemi Badenoch is coming up there, so I will now stop with my history lesson.
Yeah, sorry, Kemi Badenoch has just taken to the stage. Let's have a listen to what she has to say, and Nana Akwerbi coming back after this, after we've heard Kemi speak.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, conference. Thank you. Conservatives love Manchester. It is a great city of free trade and free thinking. 240 years ago, in the 1780s, this was still a small market town, but something was stirring, a spirit of enterprise that would turn Manchester into a global economic powerhouse. And it was back in the 1780s that the very first Jewish community